Welcome everybody to our True Self Talk right after our conjoined worldwide Connect with Your True Self meditation and energy session. My name is Jona Bryndis, and as we have been doing this for over 12 years now, right after our session we want to reflect on our inner connection process with our true self. Yes, and I have Astrid, Sheila, and Cindy here who helped me facilitate this large group of people from all over the world. Welcome, co-facilitators, and thank you so much for being there. This was a difficult session, intense, but that's to be expected. It's the timing of it, right at our current full moon. And I don't know if you guys could feel this as well. It felt a little bit like rock bottom. It felt a little bit heavy. Yeah, so the last 24 hours leading up to our session were quite difficult. And I want to refer back to the forecast for December. Keep in mind that those aren't predictions. Those are readouts of what already is. Okay, it's just that we can't really feel it yet. It hasn't really sort of materialized in our lives, and that's why we're not accepting it as a truth. And this is also the theme of this session that we just had. What makes us become a true self? What makes us become true? And so when we deal or struggle with all these sort of heavy feelings, or maybe the lack thereof, yeah, there was also quite a bit of numbness there, like the inability to feel something. But we still feel. But if we feel too much through our thinking, what happens is that our actual feeling, yeah, the heart that informs us about sort of the totality of all that is going on inside of us, dies down. So if you feel that you are standing in front of an unsurmountable sort of pile of things, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel that you're stuck, if you feel that you're not getting anywhere right now, understand that that is not just yours, yeah, your reality right now. This is a collective weather condition that forces us to reassess, to look back, to ask ourselves, what are all these things that I am trying to accomplish here? Maybe you are wrapped up with holiday stuff. Maybe you are wrapped up with end of the year stuff. Maybe you're asking yourself if what you have been striving for, if that's actually still what you want. And maybe if you are a more spiritually aligned person, you ask yourself if what it is that you are going for, that you're materializing in your life right now, is congruent, is aligned with who you want to be. And all that came forward in this session. It was quite difficult to hold the space, to be honest, because we are so much in our heads right now, yeah, that it's very, very difficult to break through to this part in us that can actually give us answers. So one of the first things I think that we could see was when we're in this state where we have no answers, the simplest thing to do is to ask. But not your neighbors or your politicians or, you know, your best friends who might feel the same way. But to ask yourself, to go deeper into yourself and become willing to see the truth of yourself. Now, I know that this is a scary thought for some of us. We investigated this during this session. I asked very naive questions about that. Why would we not want to see truth? Why would we not want to become true to ourselves? Why would we not want to know the whole truth? This is the part where I would like to invite you to chime in and share. Why would we not want to feel or to know truth? Has anyone here ever felt that they're recoiling whenever it's about taking a deeper look? Or maybe
Good morning. I have.
You remember? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I definitely have. And what's humbling is that those moments still arise. Mm-hmm. And it's good to have had the practice of getting through. It's like the barbs not on wire, but like the barbs or the thorns on a plant. You're going through something, you get caught on something, and it can then pull in the mind, and it suddenly grows, where it's just a little something that actually I need to just, it's a key to me now. Instead of getting caught on that barb, it's a key to me to expand my energy, because this session felt, it's very big. It felt like a huge energy, like the whole town is full of this constipation of routine and all caught up. It's like a constipation, like everybody get up, go for a walk or something. So it's a key to expand my energy, because it's obviously my energy. I need to work with my energy to get past this thing that gets caught.
So you recognize the necessity, say, to shift your energy out of that.
Exactly. It suddenly is like a little, it's one of the many, I have to say, things to shift the energy, to stay with what part of the whole point of this is to be connected to the true self. So it's an interference with that.
Thank you, Janet, for sharing this. Now, I have a second question for you here, a follow-up question. How do you pick up on, let's say that it might not just be yours, that it might be like a collective kind of thing, like everybody getting caught up in the same thorns, as you just called them?
Well, I find the things that are pure in life, like if I'm with my animals and it still feels disruptive, or if I go out to nature and with like with a tree or a plant even, and there's something disrupting it and I can't identify it, that it's me right away, then to me, it's like, okay, right now what's coming to mind is like you're kneading bread, okay, you're kneading some bread dough, and you just start getting a feeling. And if you've lost that centered feeling, or there's a disruption around, then
you know it's time to shift. Then you know something's
up.
It's
time to shift. Sometimes we can do it fast, or sometimes it's a matter of like kneading the dough to kind of figure out what needs to go, or picking up. There's a lot of tools are given here. Maybe I just need to sit down and be quiet, or need to take a shower, or need to write in a journal. So there's something a lot different. Of tools to fix it. Yeah.
Something different. Not like trying to endlessly, sort of make it work or force it or cope with it, but to like, hang on a second, I'm stuck.
Yeah, well, we get in routines and we think that we're supposed to be like this train plowing forward, and then we're caught in our mind, and we started to put ourselves then back on the train track of the circle that's going to put us right back into situations. If we want something new to grow, we can't rely on the routine, and I think that's where we can get caught and not recognize that we need to do something different.
I love that. Okay, that's very simple And a great advice, okay, for anyone who feels a little stuck in a, say, heavy feeling or stuck in sort of the routines of, I often call it trying to cope away reality, right? Just trying to manage, just trying to survive life. All right. So this is like a machine-like response to truth or to reality. Yeah. And that's what we need to recognize, is that in that moment where we just sort of frantically try to cope with what isn't really conducive for us, what isn't really bringing more love or bringing more freedom or bringing more truth into our lives, we need to stop. Yeah, the word shift can mean it, simple things like you said, just stop. All right? Stop the machine. Stop the machine in you and go inward. Yeah, sometimes that can come about through stillness, which is always a good advice, especially when one feels a little low. For some of us, it can also come through activity, yeah, through changing something. So some of us are very creative. And when you're very creative, my advice to you is do something completely unrelated, okay? But something that pulls you into this activity of shifting, of actively shifting, of actively changing your energy first. Now, for some of us, it is the recognition that we are stuck in our minds, and when there is too much mind, it stifles the heart. And when there's too much heart, when there's too much feeling and emoting, it stifles the mind. Yeah, so we need to find that middle ground. And in order to even recognize that we are in either of these extremes, these polarities within ourselves, yeah, that we're caught in there, which is, from our perspective here as energy readers, the biggest problem in our time right now, we have to first stop the machine. We have to recognize that we are slowly turning ourselves into a machine, but just sort of robotically trying to cope with what is. Now, Janet, you said something else. You said you try to expand your energy. And this is a energy lingo not everybody is familiar with how we can do this. You pointed at the tools given here. So here at the Daily Sacred Self community on Skype, we have online meditations and discussion groups going on at all times, 24/7. And there's a lot of wise people here that share their advice and their own experiences. But there is something even simpler. And that is that if we are stuck, if we are overwhelmed, if we are at this rock bottom type of place in our life, the fastest way to expand our energy, besides just simply stopping what we're doing, because obviously that is not working, is to ask. Is to ask instead of assume. If I look at the relationships of people right now, if I look at all the conflicts that we experience in our world as nations, as individuals, as societies, the biggest problem I'm seeing is that everybody gets stuck in their assumptions instead of asking. Okay? And we don't always know which the right people are to ask. So we can start the process of expanding our energy by asking ourselves. So inquiry, self-reflection, all these mindfulness techniques that you are all familiar with are obviously very vital tools. So we have to remind ourselves, yeah, that asking allows to bring in truth, allows to bring in new options. Okay, and that has to be fostered or cultivated. We have to cultivate within ourselves to inquire even about why we're thinking this, or if it's even us thinking it, or why we are having these thoughts, why we're having these emotions. Yeah, if you are familiar with, self-healing work, you can ask yourself, what does my ego get out of this? Yeah, what's the payoff? What's the motivation here? You don't have to identify with it. You just ask, why am I saying this? Yeah. And the problem with this occurs is that when you start asking, you will get answers that you may not like. And that is why we recoil from it. That's why we get stuck. At the end of this session, it became very clear why we resist truth so much. Because when we actually take this inquiry seriously and ask for truth, we also have to look at the things that we dislike, that we don't want to see, that we perhaps deem as dark. And so it became very clear to us as we were facilitating the session with your guys' permission to look into your energy fields, that the recoil comes from, yes, wanting truth, but not really wanting the whole truth. And that does not even just include the obvious, namely looking at yourself and seeing things about yourself that you don't like. There is something much bigger about this, and I can reaffirm this to you, that this is an actual thing, okay, seen through spiritual eyes, to prevent you from seeing the whole truth. What does the whole truth, not just the stuff that you don't like or don't love about yourself, but the whole truth entail? What does it mean to inquire about the whole truth? Are you guys aware that that is what sets you aside from all intelligent life here on this planet? The ability to inquire about truth via the power of consciousness. And we all recoil when we hear spirit, because spirit is one of those words that has been hijacked, that has been misused, that has been used for lies and control and so forth with religions. But let go of that. What bestows you with consciousness is the greater consciousness, the spirit. That is what spirit is. And it works through you. Yeah, the universal or cosmic intelligence, if you will, works through you. You have that in you, but you kind of have to turn this on like a light switch. You have to turn on that part of you that can help you see truth. And how does that happen? How do we know what we're seeing is truth? That is an individual process. And the reason why this is individual is because it has to be individual. We have to want to see truth. We have to want understanding reality in its full scope.
Jona,
Yes.
I have a question, and with what you're saying right now is that I think sometimes a trap is, sorry for the music, the can see truth as a one-time thing, or like, oh, I solved this problem, but it's actually an ongoing breath, like in, out, breathe in, breathe out. It's an ongoing energy that truth is, and that people working on these things, you think that, oh, we solved something, we saw some truth, and then like the next breath, we don't expect that we're going to get another new truth, and that things are actually going to keep changing. What things can actually keep evolving from that point, rather than it being like a little destination, like, oh, I saw truth, and then our little brains don't expect that we're going to have to keep doing that, but it is really just an ongoing moment by moment process.
What you're saying here, what you're bringing into this discussion is very valuable, Janet. Really, what you're now talking about is reality. Okay? Yeah, so you're right. I never thought of it this way, but we have this idea of truth like in the movies. Like somebody, removes the veil, the Maya, okay, from our eyes, and all of a sudden we have X-ray eyes or something like that.
Yeah.
But nobody actually goes a step farther. It's like ending the story and they lived happily ever after. Like what happens when you start seeing truth? That's exactly what you just mentioned. When you start seeing truth, not only, this was the reason why I recommended it opens up something in us. It turns on, yeah, the light in us. Because now we can see, okay, where it was dark before. Yeah. We may not be able to see everything. I mean, we're not really looking at everything at the same time. So we can only see where we look, where we direct our flashlight. Yeah. In the beginning, when we turn on the light, which is basically, open ourselves up for truth. It's just like a little candlelight, or maybe those of you who have worked on cultivating this already, like a flashlight. So wherever you point, you'll be able to see truth. And you're absolutely right. There is always more, which means we only see snippets of truth based on our alignment, based on basically what we can see, what we can fathom. The trick is to assume that there is a bigger reality, to assume, not in the sense of assuming versus asking, but to just accept that your light is capable of illuminating the whole truth, but that needs to be practiced. And why does it need to be practiced? This was the part here that really stunned me in this session. I literally asked Sheila, Astrid, and Cynthia, I said, why? Why is that? Why do we recoil? It has to do with us being willing to see the parts that are not true. Perhaps even the parts that are dark, not just in ourselves. It goes beyond that. Not just the obvious fear of our own shadow side. Guys, don't worry about your own shadow. I mean, it is part of your healing process, but it is not what you get stuck on. What you get stuck on is not wanting to see the bigger darkness that is working there. How is it that we humans, with these extraordinary capabilities of our consciousness to tap into spirit and embody spirit, don't get it? How come that we don't want to see truth? How come we cannot accept that there is a spiritual reality underneath all that manifests in the 3D material? How come we are so resilient in wanting to see that there is a spiritual reality that manifests the physical and not vice versa. Do you guys know why? Because you don't know who you are. As soon, as you do this as recommended here, basically daily, to ask, to feel inside of you. Now what spirit works through you. You are beginning to see, well, let's back up for a sec. You are beginning to build a bridge between those two realities inside of you. These two hearts beating in your chest, or these two souls incorporated in you. The part of you that deals with the 3D, the material, the machine-like repetition of things, with all the struggles and sufferings that you have to go through. And the soul in you that deals with seeing yourself, understanding and feeling yourself as this spirit being that is having a physical experience. Yeah, so have the part in you that knows that there is spirit in you, or that you are spirit, and the part in you that gets stuck in the expressions, the manifestations of spirit working through you. Yeah, let me repeat that. Our duality is that we get stuck in understanding and fully seeing the spiritual reality underneath the physical 3D reality that we are experiencing. We get stuck in the experience because we fail to ask what made that a cure. And earlier I raised the question, why is it that it's so hard for us to accept that, even for us spiritual people? Because there's an element here that we do not want to see yet, that we are afraid of seeing. And that is how this spiritual reality, which for most of us is still just dark, because we can't see, right? There's an absence of light. How that is composed and how it works through us. So isn't it then logical to assume that by training our light, by practicing to turn on the light switch, by practicing to looking into truth, feeling into truth, of course, after we stop the machine, we first have to stop the machine, and then train to look into truth. And this way, to increase the light radius, the radiance, as we call this in energy lingo, of our inner light, of our flashlight. So that everything that is seemingly in the dark, because we can't yet illuminate the darkness, we don't know how to do this yet. We are gradually learning the whole truth. And yes, this is a gradual process, and yes, this requires an everyday sort of alignment. Okay? So I'm making a very provocative statement here, and this is basically sort of the message in this session, that when we refuse to see the whole truth, when we recoil from inquiring and feeling into and wanting to see the whole truth, we are in fact saying that we prefer the darkness. Yeah, we are refusing the light. And that's something that most of us don't want to hear, especially spiritual people, because, you know, in our minds, we are aligned to spirit, of course. But when it comes to living like it, yeah, we're still a little hesitant. We are afraid of looking at the darkness. We are afraid of accepting the spiritual reality of the world that we are experiencing. There is no spiritual evolution without turning on the light. And that requires you to be willing to see into the darkness, not just your own. This isn't about your own darkness. We are dealing with a bigger reality right now, a bigger darkness in our everyday life. This has nothing to do with conspiracy theory. This has only to do with you accepting that underneath every materialization in your life and our entire collective's life, yeah, that where our humanity is going is a spiritual process, is a, let's say, one or more spirit being, okay, that is bringing it into reality. How? Through our etheric and astral bodies. Yeah, it can't manifest it directly. It has to work through our feeling and our thinking. And when we're talking about the dark forces, the adversarial forces, they do this by manipulating our action, our willing. And how does this play out in our everyday life? By making us apathetic, making us feel defeated, making us question ourselves, focusing on the negativity in this world and the fear and everything is going down the drainer and the world is going to go under. That is how your ability to act on truth is being stifled, is being, well, constipated, is being pacified. It is the machine, yeah, that we see now. This is a metaphor. You'll see this in my forecast for 2025 as well. I'll talk a lot about machina, the machinations of our reality, because it's the tool, yeah, that the dark forces is using to let us stay in darkness. Now, if we are talking about, let's say, the celestial forces or the divine forces, the Trinity, the source, it also works through our feeling and our thinking. But first of all, it would never manipulate our willing, because the whole point of allowing humans to see truth, to gain wisdom, is to give them freedom, the freedom of choice. So you see, for me, it was somewhat of a riddle during our session why we don't want to see the whole truth. Because without seeing that, without accepting that there's a spiritual reality, we cannot know what to do. We cannot choose. We are not free. So I raised the question, what makes us a true self? What makes us become true? What makes us become true is the willingness to accept the whole truth. And that includes the presence of darkness. Yeah, that includes recognizing that our reality is a duality, that there are two different realities simultaneously. The only problem with that duality is that for as long as we are not fully aware of who we are, and the fact that we have the tool and the ability, yeah, to harmonize all that within ourselves, to bring all that in balance and recognize, okay, I'm a spirit being, I'm a soul that is having a physical experience for what purpose? For the purpose of evolving myself, for the purpose of learning and refining how to bring more truth, more freedom, and especially love into this world. That is my power. My power is to become able to bring more love. Love not in the sense of the romantic love, but in the love of, in the meaning or in the sense of compassion, equality, and unity. How to bring more of that into the world. And guess what the prerequisites are for becoming able not only to feel true connection, love, not only to bring more of love into this world, but also to become an expression of that, and what we call the light, to embody it. The prerequisites for that are truth and freedom. We have to want it. We were given the freedom to choose which spirit to serve. And that's our task. And the tool is inquiry, yeah, is ask. And what is wisdom? Wisdom is the continual process of inquiring about truth, to seek it. And with truth, we receive the ability to discern, which is our very, very current sort of learning process, to discern, and to differentiate on a higher level by seeing the bigger perspective, by recognizing, yeah, that our perception is faulty for as long as the light switch is turned off. We only see a tiny, tiny fraction of reality, namely the material 3D only. So how could you be able to discern truth? How could you be able to make a free choice if you're only seeing basically what you're being presented or what your ego identifies with? Yeah, so growing beyond the ego perception, you all know this already, is the practical task and the tool for increasing your radius, yeah, of your flashlight is discernment. That's how we do this. And once you can see truth, you may not like it, you don't have to agree with it, and it doesn't make you a better person. But what happens is that you begin to see more options, your perception changes, and you begin to see that there are more ways than just this machine-like past that we are being presented with, that I don't want to go deeper into here right now. So as you're seeing more options, more solutions, more ways, well, what do? You ask. for more to see. And you'll see more of what you don't like, and it will frighten you and it will make you feel uncomfortable. But that is the path to truth, to freedom and love, to get past your likes and dislikes, to get past your fear. And ultimately, as you're beginning to see truth, as you're beginning to see the dualistic reality, that you're seeing the light and the dark at the same time, that's then when something big happens in you. That's then when you begin to fully understand what terms like heart-mind coherence or, living in the light means, or living in the heart. What happens in you is that you start feeling the bigger reality of yourself and the whole entire evolutionary process that we're all going through. All the separation, all the struggle, all this excruciating pain, these cognitive dissonances that haunt you, go away when you see how the light and the dark works. So we can't be a true self if we deny or refuse to see the full spectrum of reality. Yeah, that's the key here. What makes us become a true self is not being a saint or knowing everything or anything like that that you hear in this sort of 3D coaching world. What makes you become a true self is to be willing to see and work with truth. Okay? To your best of abilities, because that's your purpose. That's why you are here. And the more you take on this task, the more you're willing to work with truth, the more freedom you will feel, the more options you will see. And the freer you become, from free from all your ego stuff and the narratives and idealism and fantasy and so forth, the more compassion you will feel for the human condition, knowing what a wonderful light is in this human form. And all it really needs, like an infant that needs to grow, that needs to expand, that needs to, experience a lot, so that it can learn how to walk and talk and express itself and bring its own creativity into this world. We have to learn that love as an energetic resonance, not the romantic love, is the key to co-creating the physical reality, because that is a spiritual power that we can learn to harness once we're willing to see truth. We can create our physical or co-create our physical experience. But we have to be willing to go through all the discomfort of seeing the dark and the light at the same time. Yeah, so that's basically why New Age and a lot of these feel-good spirituality memes, okay, that are floating around, why they don't work, guys. Spirituality is not about feeling good. Spirituality is about truth. It's about freedom and about love, ultimately. So as we are in this process here, all of us in the same boat, the end of the year 2024, starting to get ready for a new reality, I want to bring in a slide here that you can all see on the screen right now that I have produced, not sure, I think in 1920 or 2000, not 1920, 2019, 2020. Yeah, about the future and what we are looking at, what we are sort of, it's not a prediction again, it's just sort of the process that we're in. It's already there. Yeah, we just have to kind of gradually increase the radius of our flashlight to see that. Yeah, and we're right here. We're right here in 2024. Yeah, I predicted back then that we are experiencing something like a revolution, a new leadership, a new sort of signpost here leading the way. And when it comes to this new future that I mentioned in the forecast for December, we are now looking at a reordering process. Our reality is being reordered, and there are new alliances that are forming. It's very important for us to understand the significance of that in regard to ourselves. The reordering process has to do with the spiritual reality that is going on behind it, the battle in heaven, if you will. The forces that are now coming forward to fight over our 3D material reality. Why would they fight over it? Well, they want to create a new reality in which only the material reality exists. Why would they do this? I'm modeling spiritual inquiry for you here. Because they don't want you to discover the whole truth. They want to disconnect you from your spiritual reality so that all you feel you can do, all you think you can choose, is in the material only. And this will happen via multiple tools, many of which I have already lectured about, we've worked through in the past years. Yeah, anything from mind control, narcissism, centralization, yeah, anything that has to do with separating us even more, creating a bigger divide, preventing us from building the bridge between the spiritual and the material. Yeah. Creating the illusion, yeah, that there is no spirit. So this is basically the task ahead here in these next years, and we already know how this is coming about. And I just want to drop a few terms here that I will further elaborate on in the forecast for 2025. Yeah, the materialization of the human body, yeah, the dehumanization of us, because once we begin to identify with this robotic nature of the material and our own robotic behavior, once we agree with the legal definition of what it means to be human, the medical definition based on electrical impulses, yeah, once we identify with how we are being told what it means to be human is, that's when we are caught in the material world. That's, yeah, basically the goal of these adversarial, these dark forces, to pull you further into the material, the 3D reality only. Only. And of course, transhumanism, in implants and all these kind of things will be part of this. Uh, drones and droids and all these things that the Ariman and his cronies sort of come up with, okay, to create this alternate reality. There is no Deus ex machina. There is no salvation in the material, guys. Yeah, the pathway for us to grow as souls and to follow our soul development is through discovering who we truly are, is to build the bridge between the spiritual reality and the material reality and recognize what a great spirit we are, and to recognize dark forces at work, to become able to discern it. And once you can do that, you can let go of fighting against them. That is the revelation. That is the good message here, guys. You don't have to fight against darkness. All you got to do is turn the light switch on and bring the light into darkness. That is what being a true self does, or what it makes you do when you are a true self. You bring light into darkness. You just can't be afraid of looking at it. So there's quite some deep stuff here in this session. It doesn't surprise me when I do the calendar and when I time these sessions. Obviously, I time them with how the collective field sort of supports certain processes. So I want you guys to go home now. Obviously, I hope that you have had a good experience, but I want you guys to go home with the awareness that sometimes all you need to do is stop the machine. There is no divine intervention coming out of the machine. The divine intervention comes through you, Deus, in humani. All right. You are the divine intervention. You are the ones that can bring the light into this physical reality. I want you to remember this, even if it's just maybe a bunch of empty words that you're just hearing from another spiritual teacher. Okay? It's the spirit in you that creates your reality. So yeah, guys, I'm sending you off now into the last weeks of 2024 with those deeper contemplations. If you would like to have a personal reading, then check my calendar for the energetic tune-up. That's when I go into the field of the next 4 to 6 weeks and send your energy through it and help you maybe with navigating it. We will have another talk about the energies of 2025 coming in. Yeah, and obviously there will be a video and all these kind of things. So stay tuned. Use the opportunity here in this free online community on Skype to meet like-minded, to feel into unity, to feel into what happens when multiple people turn on their lights at the same time. It's powerful, guys. That's all for free. Use the opportunity maybe to receive daily empowerment messages from you, from me here in December. I'm sending them out every day with video and write-up. Use the opportunity, to find and turn on your own inner light by just simply stopping the machine that you're caught in and asking for the light to come in. Thank you so much, everyone, especially Astrid, Cindy, and Sheila, for co-facilitating, for holding this field, and for all of you coming here live and sharing and sending all these hearts. I'm seeing you again very soon. On Christmas Day, we're starting the 12 sacred or holy nights or days of Christmas, live here every day at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy holidays.